Hello everyone and welcome back. In the last video, we left it at this stage where we had completed implementing the search functionality. Today, what we will do, we will be working on the filtering and the sorting. So let me show it in the final application. So here we have got this sort. So you can sort it by latest or by popular or random. You can even filter it. You can filter by SDK. So you want to see only the Maui applications, only the Xamarin snippets, or do you want to see everything? So this is what we will be doing in this part. Now, one thing I will confess, unfortunately, I recorded this whole thing only to realize after an hour of recording that I had forgotten to press the start recording button. So please excuse me if I rush through this a little bit fast, because I am a bit frustrated, honestly, and I think it's a good lesson learned. Going forward, I should be creating videos, or rather short videos than the long ones. So let's get back to this. Let us start with the page icons, the ones that we have over here. Now, if you remember in our page, when we were setting it up, we had provisioned a placeholder where we can inject icons in our application. So this is what we are going to leverage for this application. To do this, it is very simple. We simply go to our start page, and just like we have this view-based page content, we also have a space for our page icons. So I can say view-based dot page icons. The IntelliSense is not kicking in. What I will do over here, I am going to bring in simply the icons that I want to display over here. So something very simple. I am just creating a horizontal stack layout, and what it has a couple of icons in it. So one is a sort icon, the other is the filter icon, and I'm not binding it to my view model, which I will explain why. All it is doing, I'm using just the clicked event. So let me go to the definition and create these functionalities for me, these placeholders. So let me just go. Now, if I just run this application, at least you will see the icons will be appearing at the top of the page. So let this application build and load up. So here you go. You can see we have a couple of icons, and right now they are not doing anything because we have not implemented the clicked event handler for this. So what do we want to do when we click on it? So if you see it in the running application, you will notice it pops up a bottom sheet, and this is where we'll have the options. You can close it and so on. So this is the same thing that we will be doing. For this purpose, I'm going to rely on the bottom sheet control that I wrote for .NET MAUI a few months ago, and it is available on my GitHub page. You can go and download the code from there. It's a simple control with the full source code. It is not available on NuGet yet, so you'll have to download the code. So the instructions also how to use it are given. You just have to add this namespace declaration and then just add a content page, the bottom sheet, and set the content of that bottom sheet to whatever you want to be. And then we have a few properties that you can use to customize. For example, the header text style, the theme, whether it is light or dark, and the height of the theme. And if you see over here, we also have a running example. So you can see this is a simple example. This is the one with a custom header style. This is the one with the different height. You can change the height. You can also programmatically close it, not this way. I made a recording error. So yes, using the button, you can programmatically close it. And then this is a bit more complex example. So this is how you can implement this. So this is the control that we are going to use. You can download the code for this. And what we are going to do, once we have that, we are going to add this project to our, let me bring in this project. We are going to add this project to our Maui project, and then I'm going to add a reference to this bottom sheet project. So let's go ahead and add the reference to this project, which is Maui Controls bottom sheet project. Once we have this, the way you want to use it, or you have to use it, first of all, you have to add the namespace declaration. So let's go back to our start page. I'm just going to add this over here. And for the sake of simplicity, rather than just calling it controls, I will rename it to bottom sheet controls. So this is our page icons, and then inside is where we have our search control, we have our main carousel view, and we have the bottom menu. Now below this is where I am going to bring in our bottom sheets. So let me start with the filter bottom sheet first, because that is the simplest one to implement right now. So let's go ahead. So it is a simple bottom sheet control. I'm giving it a name, filter bottom sheet. It is set in row number 0, and I am spanning the 4 rows. Header, I have given it as filter options, and the header style is our page header text style, which is defined in AppXaml. The sheet height, I've given it 500, and the theme is light. And the way we provide the content in this is this bottom sheet content property. So I'm simply putting in a label control that you can implement this yourself. I will in this video also show you the backend logic or the view model logic, how to get this data, but then the actual implementation, I will leave it to you. I'll only focus on implementing the sort functionality. So once we have this in place, what we can do now, I can go back to my start page, and in my filter icon, all I need to do is I simply need to say, let's say await, what did we call it? Filter bottom sheet. I think my IntelliSense is not kicking in yet. So dot open bottom sheet. So that's simply we can do this. And since it is just one line of code, I'm going to make this simplified. So no need for the function body, just the shorthand is going to be fine. Let me run this and see this in action. So the application is coming in. Now if I click on this filter functionality, something went wrong. Did I put a breakpoint? Yeah, I think by mistake I put in a breakpoint. So you see this filter box came up. If I click on it again, this is the 500 height that we have given, so it's taking up almost more than 50% of the space, and this is the content that we put in, and you can see even our font styles, everything is respected, and we can close it by clicking on this cross icon. Now the same thing I can do for my sort bottom sheet. So let me go ahead and let me minimize this, and let me bring in my sort bottom sheet. So it is going to be exactly the same concept. So I'm giving it a name, sort bottom sheet. Everything is the same, just the header is sort by. The height I've given it 260 points or pixels. And for the content, I have wrapped 3 text buttons, or rather 3 buttons with the text button style, which will remove the border around the button and make it look like simple text in a vertical stack layout. And in each of these buttons, I'm binding it to a command in my view model, which is sort snippets command for all 3 of them. And for the command parameter, I'm passing in popular for the popular text box or the popular button, latest for the latest, and random for the surprise me button. So this is where it is going to randomize and return the results for you. So what we need is, we need to actually go ahead and we need to implement this relay command as well. So let's go back to our start page view model. I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to create a relay command, and let's call it private async task sort snippets, and I'm going to pass in sort by. This is the parameter. So you can see this is the parameter that will get passed. Let me actually show it to you in action. So if I run this, Okay, right now nothing is going to happen because even though we have defined this, we need to show it. So to show this, let me just copy this. I need to go to my start page, and whenever I'm clicking this icon, I need to say await dot open bottom sheet. And let me simplify this. So let us run this application now and see this in action. And we have put a breakpoint, and you will see whatever parameter that we had set over here while calling each of these buttons, that will be passed to our application. So if I click on the filter options come up. If I click on this sort by comes up, where we have 3 buttons. If I click on, say, latest in this particular case, you will notice that latest is being passed in. If I click in surprise me, you will see random is being passed in. So this logic is working for us. What we now need to do is we need to actually now work on the logic for sorting. So I'm going to first of all call my clear filters so that there are no filters that need to be applied. And then I am not going to write any specific logic. In our application settings, app settings service, we already had a sort order. So I'm going to just set this sort order to this sort by that I'm passing. And then I'm simply going to call this set snippets, which we have been working on for quite some time. So this is a simple call that we need to do. Nothing needs to be done. Everything else, if we go to this set snippets, everything has been done. It changes the app title or the page title based on this sort order because it is persisting in the local or global preferences. And then it also sorts it depending on this sort order. So let me actually go ahead and show it to you in action. So let the application run. So if right now it is sorted by popular. If I click on this, we have popular and latest and surprise me. Let me change it to latest. So just notice what happens. If I click on latest, in the background you could see that first of all the page header got changed to latest and the list also got changed. So it sorted it by the latest first. If I click on surprise me, you see it sorted it. Here you cannot see anything, there is not much difference, but you can see. Now if I go back to popular, you can see because this essential UI kit, this previous one was highlighted, so that is where it was moving. Now ideally what should happen is the moment we do, it should sort it and it should then automatically close this as well. So how can we achieve this? Now very first thing, just to highlight, we are doing all of this business in our view model. So in the view model, we do not have, rightly so, access to our UI controls. We cannot interact with the user interface or the front end, which is the page in this particular case. So how do we do this? There are different methods of doing this. One is you can use the messenger service, which was heavily used in Xamarin Forms. And I heard that in Maui, it has been deprecated, even though you can use it. There is something else which is available in its place. But the simplest one that I prefer to use is simply make use of event handlers and subscribe to them. So what I am going to do, just to show you here, in my view model, I am going to declare the event handler for my close sort options. So sorry, close sort bottom sheet. So this is an event handler. And what I am going to do in my execution when I'm sorting, once I have done with everything, I can simply do something like this, close sort bottom sheet, and I'll put a question mark to ensure that it has been subscribed to. If it has not been subscribed to, it is not set, then we do not need to do anything. But if it has been subscribed to, I simply need to invoke it, passing it this control or this view model, and then I can pass in the event args. You can either pass in null if you want, you can pass in new event args, or in the case you have created custom event args by inheriting this, you can even do that. In my case, I am not bothered about reading the event args in my front end, so I can pass it as null. Or if required, I mean, why not, simple empty event args? I can even do that. It's totally up to you how you want to do this. So with this in place, now we have this in place and we have defined this. And by the way, while we are at it, this is done for our sort bottom sheet. Eventually, once you implement the filter, you can do the same thing with the filter bottom sheet as well. So I'm just going to declare this event handler for now, even though we are not going to work on it or code anything around it, but you can do this later on. Now with this in place, let me actually go ahead and let me run the application. So what do you expect will happen now? Once we select any text button that we have provided in the bottom sheet, we are expecting this bottom sheet to close. But unfortunately, it will not, as I will show you. There is still one more step that we need to do. So let me actually go ahead, sort by, say, latest. Nothing happened. It did not close. Why is that? The application does not know, or the view model does not know what to do with it, because this close sort bottom sheet event handler is not subscribed to yet. So that is where we put in this question mark. So since it is not initialized, it is not bound to or subscribed to, it is not going to invoke anything. If it was subscribed to or bound to something, then it will invoke this method, what we have done. So to invoke that, what I can do is I can go back to my constructor of my start page, and this is where I can register for these view model events. So let's call it register for view model events, and we have this dot view model initialize. This is something that we implemented as part of our view base. So whenever the view model is initialized, again the same concept over there. You can watch the Beyond Monkeys 1 series. There I have explained how this is being called. So the moment it is executed or it is raised, it raises a event which we can subscribe to. So in this particular case, right now it is not doing anything. And then on this particular initialization event, I can say this dot binding context. So whatever the binding context is, as start page view model. Okay, so a start page view model dot close sort bottom sheet. So this is another event plus equals to, I can do the same thing. So whenever this event is raised, I can do something. So even right now, still it is not going to do anything for me, because even though it will get called, if I go to my start page view model, it is going to invoke this because it has been subscribed to, but there is no body in it. Nothing is going to happen. So to close the bottom sheet, what I can do is I can say await sort bottom sheet dot close bottom sheet, and I need this to be an asynchronous function. I want this to be asynchronous. Yeah. So let's actually run this now. I'm going to run this to show you if this is working or not. Now it should actually go ahead and close our bottom sheet for us the moment that event is raised and everything is done. So let us see this in action. So now if I call this, right now we are on latest, let me call surprise me. So here you go. So it has shown us random list. If I go to popular, it shows popular and it closes. If I go to latest, it is going to show us the latest and it closes. But one thing you'll notice, so right now we are at Cruise Mobile UI in latest. If I sort it by popular, it still remains at Cruise Mobile UI, even though the number will change. But this is not the behavior we want. Ideally, we should go all the way to the start, to the beginning of the list. So that is where, if we go back and you remember, in our main carousel view, I give it a name, snippets list. So that is where we can make changes. We can make it go back. So I can say on my snippet list, selected index is equal to 0. So with this, now if I run this, it will move the list to the first item in the list, and then it will close the bottom sheet. Let this come up. So we are, let's say we are somewhere in the middle, and now if I go ahead and sort it by latest, you see it always jumps to the first one. Even if I'm somewhere in the middle, somewhere over here, I say surprise me, it takes me to the first item. If I am again somewhere in the middle, popular, it takes me to the first item and closes the bottom sheet for me. So this is how we can do this. And the other thing, though we are not going to use it for now, but I am just going to put it. So this is for our close filter bottom sheet, same thing. And instead of sort, we are going to close our filter bottom sheet. So once you implement, you can do this as well. So this is our functionality for the page icons. Now, if I go back to my running application, now the next thing we need to do is we need to provide these quick buttons for the SDK or built with which framework to filter only for that platform. So I want to see only the apps or snippets built with Maui, or something built with Xamarin only, or built with all. So this is what we are going to implement next. For this, let me actually go back to our start page view model, and let me start building in some of the functionalities. One thing that you will notice, we already did this over here. So we had a selected SDK and selected category, and luckily for us, we already implement the logic to filter it. Even though they are empty, they are not being executed because they have been defined as or set as empty at the top. So you can see selected SDK, selected category is empty string. So this filtering is not happening, but the moment you set these filters, the functionality is going to work automatically. That is something we have already done. What we now need to do is we need to first of all show these buttons at the top, and by clicking on any of those buttons, we need to filter it. Basically, we need to set these selected SDK or the selected category. To facilitate this, first of all, we need to bring in this list of this SDKs or the build with platforms. So how we can do this? To bind this, I am just going to show you, let me bring in, I'm going to declare it as a observable list. So we can go back over here after the all snippets, and I can create an observable property, which is a list of string, and I'm calling it built with. Okay, and this is the list of string where we will have three options: all, Maui, and Xamarin, and then we will bind it to a list view or a collection view or a bindable item layout, whatever you want to do in your user interface. While we are at it, though we will not be implementing, I will also implement the backend logic for the categories. What do I mean by the categories? If I go back inside any of the user interface or a snippet, so you can see this WhatsApp UI clone belongs to friends category, belongs to list category, to messaging, to photos. If I go to something else, let's say Spotify clone, this is app clone, dashboard, list, playback. So what if, so these are the categories. So what we should be doing, the moment you click on this filter, it should show you a list of all the categories which are available. And let's say if you click on app clones, it should show you only the snippets which have been tagged with app clone category. So that's what you can do. I will just fill in the information for these categories. I'm not going to implement the front end, this part. This one I'll leave it to you to implement. It's very straightforward. So basically pretty much same as what we are doing over here. You need to do that inside of this bottom sheet. So these are the two list views, string list views that we need to do. And going back to our load snippets, what I can do is, since it's a one-time thing, I can set my categories to, I can new them up to a new list of strings, and my built with again as a new list of strings. And then what I need to do, since again this is a one-time thing, I don't need to call it inside of set snippets. So I can set my built with equals to, so this is a list of strings. I can get it from my all snippets, and I will move to the next line so that we can easily see. I will say select my snippet. Let's say my snippet is S. So I'm going to bring in built with. Each of the snippets has a property called built with, which currently has only two possible values, which is Maui and Xamarin. So it will bring in all of these, and then what I will do is I need to select distinct of them, because what will happen is if I have 10 snippets and 4 of them have Xamarin, are built with Xamarin, and 6 using Maui, so I will end up with 10 items which will have 4 Xamarins and 6 Mauis, which is not what we want. We only want 1 Xamarin and 1 Maui. So I will take the distinct. But if you see over here, I also have this third option, which is all. I want to be able to filter by a specific one. See, you can see over here, it's filtering only on Xamarin, or if I say Maui, it's only filtering on Maui. But if I say all, it is bringing in combination of everything. So for this, I can inject manually using the union link operator, and I can say add a list of strings to this, and this list of strings for me only has one item, which is all. It only has one item, and then I'm going to order it by, let's say I want to order it alphabetically, so order by the same, and I need to convert it to a list because this built with is actually a string, list of strings. So after this, once I have executed, my built with is going to have 3 options because they are sorted. So all, starting with A, M, Maui, and X, Xamarin, in this order. Now similarly, what I can do the same thing for my categories as well. Let me bring in the code for the categories. Even though I said we will not be using, I'm just populating it. So again, from my all snippets, select many. Why I'm using select many this time? Because the built with, or every snippet is built with only one SDK and there's only one option. But if we go to our app models, for our app models, we have list of categories. If I just click on this one, so this run keeper clone belongs to 4 different categories: app clone, dashboard, maps, navigations, and so forth. So this is a list of app categories, and each app category has the category as well. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just selecting all of them basically, and I'm only taking the category name, and I'm doing a distinct, and I'm going to do a to list and store it as a list of strings over here. So this is for our backend. Once we have this built with and categories available, we can make use of it. So let's actually go to our start page and implement our, let me minimize everything. So we are going to implement our filter by SDK. So where are we going to implement? We will implement it below the search box. So filter by SDK option, and I don't know, Visual Studio just opens up everything the moment I start typing a comment. So let me bring in the code quickly and then I'll explain it. Instead of using a collection view or anything else, I decided to use a horizontal stack layout. So this is going in row number 2. I am giving it some margin of 48, let's say, between the two from the top. I'm giving it a height request of 36, centering it on the screen, and I'm using the bindable layout to bind this because there are very few items. I don't care about virtualization, so I don't need to go for collection view or anything else. Horizontal layout with binding is fine. So I'm just setting it to the build with, which over here has 3 options for me. So that's all I'm doing. And inside, for the item template, I am using a border. Let me minimize everything for now. So it's a border that I am putting in, and vertically it is taking up all the space. I'm giving it some padding, 20 inside, 20 points or pixels on both sides, and the shape with the rounded corners of 12. For the background color, you remember when we were implementing this, let me go and see, let's go to all. You see, for the Maui ones, we use the purple color, and for Xamarin, we use the peach color. The same colors I want to use over here. But for the all, I can use something different. I did not want to hard code. That is why you recall we created this SDK color converter, which takes into account whether it is Maui or Xamarin or anything else, and whether it is start or end, and what color to return. So I can actually make use of this. And if you remember, in our app XAML file, we created this static converter, CVT start color converter. So I'm actually going to make use of this. So the background color is going to be depending on the text which is coming, because it is of type string. It is going to compare. If it is Maui, return the purple color. If it is Xamarin, return the peach color. If it is anything else, return gray color. So it is using this for our background color. I'll come to the gesture recognizers a bit later, but inside for the display, we are just showing the text which is coming in, which can be all Maui or Xamarin. The only thing, I'm using the string format to prepend a hash sign or hashtag before that. So this is all we have. And for the gesture recognizers, what I'm doing, once we click on this, if I click on all, it shows me all. If I click on Maui, it clicks on or selects only Maui. So for this, I am going to create a relay command, which is Snppts by SDK. So let's go back to our backend and implement a new relay command. Private async void task, and this can take in string built with. So this is the framework, and the same concept, just like what we did with the sort snippet. I am going to pass in, I'm going to call this Snppts by SDK, and I'm going to pass in this parameter, which is this text, which is either all or Maui or Xamarin. Now for this command, what I am doing, I am binding it to the source of this page, to the relative source, wherever the ancestor type is my view model, start view model. So I'm traversing through my tree to find out where I can find the start page view model. And on that view model, which actually is going to be my main page, I'm calling the Snppts by SDK command. So if I go back to my view model, this is where I can start writing my code. So same thing, I will say clear filters, and I can say my selected SDK equals to built with what is being passed to me, and then I can simply say await set snippets. Simple as that. So you see, we have kept all the implementation very strong, and all the heavy lifting we have done inside this set snippets, one place to rule them all. Now, one of the problems that you will see that we will have is, if I go back to this code and show you, so here we are filtering, I'm only taking the snippets where built with is equal to the selected SDK. So fine, this will work. If I select on Maui, it will give me only Maui SDKs. If I click on Xamarin, it will give me only Xamarin SDKs. What if I click on all? By this logic, it is not going to return me anything, because the only two possible values in this is either Maui or Xamarin. So what we can do for this is, I can set this to empty. The moment I set this to empty, it will not even run this code. It will not do any filtering. So what I can do is, I can say if this is equal to all, then set it to empty, otherwise built with, right? And I can just enclose this within brackets. So this way, if I pass in all, my filtering will not happen. But if it is not all, which is Maui or Xamarin, the filtering will happen. So let us run this and see it in action. Let's close this one. So here we go, our application is coming up. Yeah, here we go. So we have got three buttons at the top, all, Maui and Xamarin. If I click on Maui, it only brings me Maui items. If I click on Xamarin, it only brings me Xamarin items. If I click on all, it actually brings me all. So somewhere we will have Xamarin as well in the middle. So if I click on Xamarin, only Xamarin, nothing else. On Maui, only Maui. But for all, it is a mix. So this is how we have implemented the filters functionality in our page. The only thing I leave it for you is this filters functionality by category. The backend is all in place, so you can go ahead and implement the UI for the front end. That's all you need to do. Now in the next part, what we will do, right now this is looking all very plain. We do not have the image. Let me stop this and run the actual application. So here we are going to put in a nice looking a phone with the screenshot inside. And another thing that we will do is, if it is not loaded, we will implement some indicator to demonstrate that it is still loading the image from the internet, and we will also be caching the images, and we will make this as a reusable control. Why? Because if I go inside, the same control I will be using everywhere else. In this particular one, I don't have many screenshots, but let's go to something else. Let's say this one. If I go, so here we have some additional screenshots. So for each of them, we will be using the same concept. So again, you see over here, it is loading the image from the internet. It is taking a while because this might be a very big image, and only once it is loaded, it will appear. But next time when I go, if I go back, you will see it is already loaded because the image is cached. Let's actually go to this and see. Yes, here we have multiple images. So I want to create this as a reusable control, which I can make use of again and again. So till next time, that's it for now. If you are enjoying this video and you find this useful, please consider subscribing to this channel. I am anticipating another 4-5 more videos to complete this whole application. So hopefully in the next video, we'll work on this control. And then if we go inside, this is where we have to implement this user interface with this parallax scrolling. We need to have this list of the images. We need to implement the share functionality. And even for the images, we will have the pinch to zoom functionality. This is what we will implement in the upcoming videos. So till then, thank you everyone. See you next time.